Listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you is not a soft whisper, not a gentle suggestion. It is a spiritual alarm bell ringing across your entire destiny. Something is shifting around you right now. Something powerful is waking up inside you. And if your spirit feels stirred, if your heart feels like it's beating faster, it's because God is declaring over your life, buckle up. Everything you've been waiting for is starting now. This is not a season for hesitation. This is not a season for doubt. This is the moment where God interrupts your story with a divine acceleration so intense, so precise, so undeniably supernatural that nothing in your past will be able to explain what is about to happen next. You may not see it yet with your physical eyes, but your spirit senses it. Something unseen is shifting in the atmosphere. You can feel the rumbling. You can feel the momentum. You can feel that quiet but powerful pull, something calling you forward, something stretching you, something whispering, prepare yourself. You are about to go where you have never gone before. This is not imagination. This is not wishful thinking. This is divine preparation. God does not stir you without purpose. God does not awaken desire without direction. God does not ignite expectation without manifestation on the way. For years, you have been praying. For months, you have been waiting. For nights, you have been wrestling with questions no one else could understand. But God has heard every silent cry, every hidden prayer, every exhausted whisper of your soul. You are not stepping into random change. You are stepping into a prepared moment. A moment God has already aligned, structured, and ordered for your life. And when God says, buckle up, it means you are entering a chapter that will move faster than your logic, exceed your understanding, and surpass your own plans. God is not asking for your permission. God is declaring your elevation. This is the hour where God takes the slow places of your life and accelerates them. This is the hour where the same situations that once resisted you suddenly open for you. This is the hour where the doors that stayed locked for years finally swing wide with a force that only God can command. And when God moves, everything around you must move. When God speaks, everything around you must listen. When God decides that your time has come, there is no force in existence that can delay what has already been appointed for your life. You have been through seasons where nothing made sense. Seasons where you wondered if your prayers were echoing back at you. Seasons where you questioned if you had misheard God, misread the signs, or miscalculated your direction. But let me tell you something that will shatter every doubt left in your spirit. Delay is not denial. Delay is preparation. Delay is positioning. Delay is God protecting you from stepping into blessings prematurely. When God says now, it means your character is ready. Your spirit is ready. Your discipline is ready. Your vision is ready. Your strength is ready. God does not unlock doors when your spirit is unprepared. God unlocks doors when your destiny is ready to carry the weight of what is coming. And make no mistake, you are stepping into something heavy, something massive, something that will not only lift you, but redefine you. The next move God is making in your life is not small. It is not subtle. It is not marginal. It is a shift, a divine shift, a life-altering shift, a shift that will shock every person who doubted you and strengthen every person who believed in you. A shift that will bring clarity to the questions that tormented you. A shift that will remind you why you had to survive what others did not even notice you were battling. You see, God does not give easy journeys to those carrying powerful destinies. God stretches the ones chosen for greatness. God refines the ones entrusted with influence. God strengthens the ones meant to break generational patterns. And you have been in a refining season. A season where God removed, reshaped, reorganized, and redirected aspects of your life that you didn't always understand. But that refining was not punishment, it was preparation. You were not being broken, you were being built. You were not being abandoned, you were being aligned. There is a reason your spirit has been restless. There is a reason you felt like something big was coming. There is a reason your intuition has been louder than usual. The wait was not wasted. Your tears were not forgotten. Your struggle was not overlooked. God has been arranging a transformation so powerful that when you look back, you will realize every hardship was necessary. Every closed door was strategic. Every delay was intentional. Every loss was divine protection in disguise. God is telling you now, get ready, because what I'm about to release in your life requires spiritual seatbelts. This is not a small shift. This is not a calm transition. This is a breakthrough level movement. The kind of a movement where your life moves from stagnant to unstoppable. The kind of a movement where what used to block you begins to bless you. The kind of a movement where the same place that once rejected you now becomes the place that celebrates you. When God releases a shift, nothing can stand against it. Not people, not circumstances, not opinions, not fear, not doubt. When God commands movement, everything must rearrange itself. This is the chapter where God lifts you from the shadows into visibility. This is the chapter where God turns your private battles into public victories. This is a chapter where the spiritual weight you carried quietly become the testimony of your resilience. People do not know what you endured. They do not know how much you fought. They do not know how many nights you stayed awake, wrestling in silence. But God saw it all. God counted every tear. God measured every sacrifice. God watched every step. And now God is saying, it's time. It's time for the blessing that matches the battle. It's time for the reward that matches the resilience. It's time for the breakthrough that matches the burden. And when God releases this new season, understand something deep. You will not rise slowly. You will rise suddenly, unexpectedly, unexplainably. People will say, how did this happen? And all you will be able to say is, God did it. Because what is coming is not something human effort could produce. What is coming is not the result of strategy alone. What is coming is not something you can explain with logic. What is coming is spiritual, divine, supernatural, God-driven, God-commanded, God-orchestrated. You are entering a moment where God will elevate you beyond your qualifications, where God will open doors you did not even know existed, where God will connect you with people who carry the keys to your next level, where God will turn impossibilities into obvious outcomes. This is a divine appointment, a spiritual acceleration, a shift that has your name on it and no one can take it from you. Your days of struggling quietly are ending. Your days of feeling forgotten are ending. Your days of feeling stuck are ending. God is clearing the path. God is lighting the way. God is pushing you forward. You are not stepping into the unknown, you are stepping into the prepared. God has already gone ahead of you. God has already arranged what you need. God has already positioned who you need. God has already removed who cannot go with you. God has already secured the outcome. This is why so many things felt confusing lately. This is why certain relationships faded. This is why certain opportunities slipped away. This is why certain situations ended abruptly. You were not losing. You were being aligned. God was not subtracting. You were being refined. And every time something left your life, it was making room for something greater. You see, when God prepares a shift, it never begins on the outside, it begins within you. The shaking you feel inside your spirit, that restlessness, that hunger, that sense that your old life no longer fits you, that is the first sign that God is lifting you into a higher dimension of purpose. God transforms your inner world before God transforms your external world. God strengthens your mindset before God enlarges your territory. And if your soul feels stretched right now, it's because God is removing the limitations that once kept you small. God is expanding your capacity so you can carry what's coming without breaking under the weight of it. This is why your patience was tested. This is why your endurance was stretched. This is why God allowed you to walk through seasons where you felt unseen. God was not ignoring you. God was training you, training your discipline, training your resilience, training your sensitivity to divine timing. Because when the shift arrives, you cannot hesitate. You cannot shrink. You cannot doubt. You must step boldly into what God places before you. And boldness is not learned in comfort. It is forged in adversity, in waiting, in perseverance, in trusting God, even when nothing around you makes sense. Do you know why this shift will be so powerful? Because you are not stepping into it the same person you once were. You are stepping into it wiser, stronger, sharper, more disciplined, more spiritually aware, more aligned with God's voice than ever before. The challenges you faced did not weaken you. They refined you. They awakened your discernment. They increased your humility. They built your character. God was preparing the person who would manage the destiny you prayed for. It was never about delay, it was about development. And now God is saying the development is complete. The season is ready. There are moments in life when God accelerates what was slow, multiplies what was little, and opens what was locked. There are moments when God takes the ordinary and breathes something extraordinary into it. This is that moment for you. God is placing a new wind behind your steps. A divine push, a supernatural momentum. What used to take years will take months. What used to take months will take weeks. What used to take weeks will take days. Because when God shifts your timeline, nothing remains slow. Everything begins to move in alignment with God's command. But understand something deep. Not everyone around you will recognize this shift. Some people will not understand the speed at which your life begins to change. They will try to measure your breakthrough by their logic, by their experiences, by their expectations. But your calling is not built on human understanding. Your elevation is not based on human approval. Your destiny is not tied to human timing. God is the one advancing you. And when God elevates a person, no one can explain yet. They can only witness. You are stepping into a season where explanations are no longer required. Your results will speak for themselves. Your transformation will speak for itself. The favor on your life will speak for itself. The shift God is releasing will be undeniable. Even those who doubted you will have to admit that something divine is happening in your life. Even those who dismissed you will be unable to ignore the new strengths and clarity radiating from your spirit. Because when God decides to showcase a person, that display becomes undeniable. But here is the part many overlook. The shift you are entering is not just about receiving blessings. It is about stepping into divine responsibility. God is placing weight on your shoulders, not to burden you, but to promote you, to entrust you with the influence, to assign you a role in carrying light into places that have been dark for too long. This shift is not about comfort, it is about purpose. God is positioning you to impact, to transform, to uplift, to build. You are not being elevated for personal satisfaction alone. You are being elevated to become an instrument of God's wisdom and strength. This is why God allowed you to walk through seasons that humbled you, seasons that shaped you, seasons that forced you to rely on God alone. Because a person who has learned to depend on God cannot be shaken by circumstances. A person who has been refined by adversity cannot be destroyed by opposition. And a person who has walked through the fire with faith cannot be intimidated by any challenge ahead. God has built you into someone who can lead, someone who can withstand pressure, someone who can shine without fear. The shift you are stepping into will also bring separation. And that separation is not punishment, it is alignment. God removes people who cannot handle the next version of you. God distances you from individuals who would sabotage your elevation. God closes certain friendships not out of cruelty, but out of protection. Because this next chapter requires a lighter spirit, a clearer mind, and a circle that aligns with your destiny. Not everyone who walked with you through struggle is meant to walk with you into breakthrough. Some were meant only for the journey, not the arrival. Do not fear the people God removes. Do not cling to connections that God Himself is releasing. The shift demands spiritual room. The blessing requires space. The new chapter cannot fit into the structure of your old relationships. Let God prune. Because every removal is making space for divine replacement. The people who enter your life in this new season will not drain you. They will sharpen you, uplift you, inspire you, and push you toward your purpose with a sincerity and strength. And as God shifts you, something else will awaken your spiritual authority. You will notice your confidence rising, not from ego, but from clarity. You will notice your intuition sharpening, not from fear, but from alignment with God's guidance. You will notice doors opening effortlessly, not from luck, but from divine orchestration. You will begin to walk with the awareness that God is guiding your steps with precision. You will not chase opportunities. Opportunities will begin to chase you because the atmosphere around your life is changing. Everything in your spirit is being recalibrated. The way you think, the way you speak, the way you move, the way you respond, the way you perceive challenges, everything is being lifted to a higher frequency. You are no longer operating from survival. God is shifting you into strategy. You are no longer operating from fear. God is shifting you into faith. You are no longer operating from limitation. God is shifting you into spiritual abundance. The mindset that once confined you is being dismantled. The fears that once controlled you are losing power. The insecurities that once weakened you are dissolving. Because God is not only elevating your life, God is elevating your identity. This moment will require courage. It will require obedience. It will require trust. But above all, it will require you to stop shrinking. Stop dimming yourself. Stop apologizing for the calling on your life. Stop hesitating when God opens a door. Stop questioning whether you are worthy of what God is placing before you. Your worthiness was decided the moment God chose you. God does not prepare greatness for someone who is small in spirit. God prepares greatness for someone who is willing to grow into it. This shift is your growth. This shift is your confirmation. This shift is your evidence that God has not forgotten you. And now God is saying, buckle up. What was delayed is being released. What was blocked is being opened. What was hidden is being revealed. What was stagnant is being stirred. What was distant is being delivered. Your life is about to move. Your spirit is about to rise. Your destiny is about to unfold. And nothing, absolutely nothing will be able to stop what God has spoken over your life. There comes a moment in every destiny where God no longer whispers your next step. God commands it. And that command becomes impossible to ignore. You begin to feel it in your bones, in your thoughts, in your dreams, in the way your spirit reacts to certain environments. You start sensing that the old season is finished, not because it was bad, but because it is too small for who you have become. God is pulling you out of familiar ground because your growth can no longer fit in the soil where you once survived. This is why the comfort you used to enjoy now feels uncomfortable. This is why certain places feel spiritually heavy. This is why conversations you once tolerated now feel draining. God is disconnecting you from anything that cannot carry the weight of who you are becoming. And the powerful truth is this: when God ushers you into a new beginning, God does not wait for you to feel ready. Because spiritual readiness is not based on how confident you feel. It is based on how prepared your spirit has become through the fires you survived. You may not feel ready, but your spirit is. You may not feel qualified, but God has equipped you. You may not feel strong enough, but God has strengthened you. And once God says move, your feelings must submit to divine timing. This next stage of your life is not about comfort, it is about obedience. It is about trusting that if God calls you forward, God has already prepared what awaits you. You must understand, God never speaks now unless heaven has already aligned what is coming. God is not asking you to imagine possibilities. God is revealing realities that have already been set in motion. The shift is not a prediction, it is a declaration. It is the unfolding of a plan that existed long before you felt the desire for change. Your spirit did not crave more by accident. That desire was God awakening you, preparing you, alerting you that the next chapter is approaching with unstoppable force. This shift will not only bring breakthroughs, it will bring clarity. The kind of clarity that dissolves confusion, breaks cycles, and reveals purpose. For the first time in a long time, you will understand why things had to happen the way they did. Why certain people had to leave. Why certain opportunities had to fail. Why certain prayers seemed unanswered. God is about to show you that nothing was wasted. Every disappointment carried a lesson. Every delay carried protection. Every setback carried direction. And every closed door carried redirection. God is not a God of chaos or coincidence. God is a God of precision. And the precision of this shift will astonish you. You will look back and realize that the timing, the connections, the opportunities, the ideas, the breakthroughs, they were all stitched together by a divine hand long before you even recognized the pattern. What seemed random was strategic. What seemed late was perfectly timed. What seemed painful was purposeful. God has been orchestrating every detail, even the ones you thought were failures. And now that the moment of activation has come, you must prepare yourself for spiritual velocity. Your growth will no longer be slow, it will be sudden. Your opportunities will no longer be scattered, they will be concentrated. Your breakthroughs will no longer be sporadic, they will be stacked, one after another, until you realize you've stepped into a season where your life is unrecognizable from what it used to be. When God says everything you've been waiting for is starting now, it means you are stepping into acceleration that cannot be undone. But acceleration requires responsibility. It requires discipline. God is not elevating you into a season where you can bring old habits. The old version of you cannot survive where God is taking you. The insecurities must fall off. The self-sabotage must be silenced. The fear-driven decisions must be replaced with faith-led action. God is lifting you. Do not drag the weight of your past into the altitude of your future. Growth demands release. Elevation demands sacrifice. Breakthrough demands the shedding of what no longer serves your destiny. Some of the heaviness you feel is not spiritual attack, it is spiritual expansion. You are outgrowing environments that once felt comfortable. You are outgrowing conversations that once felt normal. You are outgrowing identities you once hid behind. God is enlarging your spirit, stretching your awareness, sharpening your focus. That tension you feel inside is not confusion, it is transformation. You are shedding the last pieces of who you used to be so you can rise into who you were always meant to become. And as this shift unfolds, you must prepare for unfamiliar territory. God is not calling you to repeat what you've done. God is calling you to rise into what you've never experienced. You will feel moments of uncertainty, not because you are unprepared, but because what God is doing is new, fresh, unprecedented. You cannot depend on old formulas for a new season. You cannot use old strategies for new opportunities. You cannot rely on old mindsets for new breakthroughs. God is guiding you step by step, moment by moment, movement by movement, into a dimension where you must depend on divine guidance more than ever before. This is why God has been purifying your intuition, elevating your discernment, strengthening your ability to sense spiritual shifts. You are entering a season where your greatest advantage will not be what you see, it will be what you discern, what you feel, what God whispers into your spirit when the world is silent. The shift requires spiritual hearing more than physical sight. You will not always see the path clearly, but you will feel God's guidance unmistakably. And when God begins to move, you will notice something extraordinary. Everything that once felt difficult will become easier. Opportunities will appear without struggle. Solutions will show up without force. Ideas will flow like they are being poured into your mind. You will begin to experience a level of divine ease, not because the journey becomes simple, but because God is now carrying what used to overwhelm you. When God steps into your situation, burdens lift. When God breathes on your plans, obstacles dissolve. When God blesses your effort, results multiply. But perhaps the most profound shift will be within your identity. God is reminding you who you truly are, not the version shaped by trauma, not the version silenced by fear, not the version limited by people's expectations. God is calling forth the version of you that has always existed beneath the layers of survival. The version that is bold, the version that is clear, the version that is powerful, the version that walks with authority, the version that recognizes divine purpose and refuses to shrink in the face of adversity. You are rising into that version now. The shift is pulling it out of you. The calling is awakening it. The destiny ahead requires it. The world around you cannot intimidate someone who has discovered their purpose. And God is revealing your purpose with such clarity that you will no longer question your path. You will walk it with a conviction, with a steadiness, with a fire in your spirit that nothing can extinguish. Now hear this clearly. The season you are entering is not about luck, coincidence, or human effort. It is about God's divine timing, God's deliberate orchestration, and God's unstoppable power. Everything that has been prepared for you, every breakthrough, every opportunity, every blessing was placed there by God. It is not dependent on your strength, your understanding, or your connections. It is dependent on God's will, God's timing, and God's authority. And when God moves, nothing, absolutely nothing, can resist. Mountains bow, obstacles vanish, delays dissolve, doors open, people shift, situations realign, and the atmosphere itself begins to obey the divine command that is being released over your life. This is why God is calling you to vigilance. You cannot approach this season half-heartedly. You cannot respond to this momentum with hesitation. God is saying, step forward, move boldly, walk in alignment, receive what I am releasing without fear. You will feel the push of divine acceleration. You will feel the stirring of spiritual currents moving you forward. And in that moment, your faith must be unshakable. Your vision must be unwavering, and your spirit must be fully awake, because what God is releasing cannot wait for your approval. It is already in motion. Your task is to align, to trust, to act, and to receive. And as God begins this powerful work in your life, understand that opposition will also rise, but it will no longer have the power it once had. Not because you are stronger, but because God is greater. Not because you are prepared, but because God has prepared the way. Not because circumstances have changed, but because God is sovereign over every situation. The forces that once intimidated you, the people who doubted you, the setbacks that defeated you, they will now witness the unstoppable momentum of God's purpose manifesting in your life. The spiritual currents you once struggled against are now flowing in your favor, carrying you swiftly toward the destiny. This is a moment where patience and persistence meet the divine timing. God's promise is not measured by the speed of human expectation, but by the perfection of spiritual alignment. What may have felt slow for years is now on the precipice of release. The delay was never denial. It was preparation. The silence was never absence. It was formation. The wait was never meaningless. It was divine calibration. And now, God is shifting your life into motion. Everything you have been waiting for is no longer distant. It is here. It is happening. It is beginning. Your vision, your dreams, your prayers, they are not random. They are intentional. God has planted them deep within your spirit. And now the soil of your life is fertile. The rain of God's timing has arrived. The sunlight of divine favor is shining. And what grows in this season will be unlike anything you have ever experienced before. Seeds that seemed dormant are now bursting into life. Dreams that seemed impossible are now within reach. Opportunities that seemed locked are now swinging open, and your spirit, the part of you that never stopped believing, is now ready to walk boldly into what God has promised. But do not mistake the speed of this shift for simplicity. The elevation you are entering will require focus, strength, and spiritual awareness. You will be faced with the choices that test the alignment of your heart. You will encounter moments that challenge your resolve. You will confront circumstances that demand your faith to exceed your fear. But God is not calling you to shrink back. God is calling you to rise higher. Every challenge in this season is an opportunity to